My brother flirts with everyone, even my girlfriend. When I called it out, my parents said it was just his personality. I am 22 years old, and my 18-year-old brother Lucas has been adopted. My parents saved him from an awful family when he was a child, so they were always very protective of him. And he was their favorite. I'm not trying to seem whiny. This is just the truth. This made me bitter toward Dad as I grew up. Even though Lucas is an adult who has recently started college, my parents still adore him. They prepared his meals and booked his doctor appointments till he moved out, which they did not do for me when I was his age. I don't think Lucas knows how to do laundry. They got him a new laptop for college, whereas I had to save for mine. They co-signed for his apartment, whilst I had to reside in the dorms with a random roommate who stole my belongings. Just small stuff like that. I met Jenny, a 21-year-old female at university, and have been together for nearly 3 years. She's incredibly nice, hilarious, and attractive, and we're quite close. We've discussed moving in together after graduation, and she's even shown an interest in marrying me eventually, despite the fact that we're plainly too young now. I really thought she was the one. We even have a ridiculous inside joke in which when one of us says, "So what are you thinking for dinner?" the other must respond, "I was thinking maybe you." And then we both giggle. It's ridiculous, but it's our thing. Lucas was accepted to the same institution as me, and while he might have gone to a better one, he received scholarships to 3 Ivy Leagues. Our parents compelled him to attend mine, believing that living in the same city would be safer and easier to visit. They did not even discuss it with me. They said, "Isn't it great that you two can spend more time together?" Despite the fact that we seldom hung together at home. I think my girlfriend Jenny is interested in Lucas, which tears my heart. It's probably my fault. When I was assisting Lucas with his class selection, as our parents had requested, his major overlapped with Jenny's. So I registered him for a few of hers. This is because, A, I didn't know what else to base it on, and B, if they're in the same class, I might visit them later and show Lucas about campus, or give him a ride to the grocery store, and still see my girlfriend. I never ever considered what may go wrong. The first day I went to see them after class, I introduced them, and we went to eat at this sandwich shop on campus. I realized they were getting along great. She laughed at his jokes, quizzed him on random topics from their studies, and then amazed at how intelligent he was after he learned the answer. Don't get me wrong, Jenny was still considerably more all over me, so at the time, I assumed it was just her being her sweet self. She's kind to everyone. It's one of my favorite things about her. But as time passed, I found it increasingly difficult to bear their friendship. Lucas has a flirty style of engaging with others, yet he doesn't appear to notice. For example, when we had a friend gathering at our place, Lucas informed one of the ladies that she is so beautiful that if he saw her photo used to sell frames at the store, he would buy the entire shelf. But he seemed astonished when she asked him to go out with her later, and he declined. He exhibits this behavior with everyone, including other males, and now with Jenny. It drives me mad since no one else finds this conduct as scary as I do. But I'm sure if an ugly person acted like Lucas, my folks wouldn't think it as cute. I fucking hate how whenever Lucas meets someone new, they become instantly obsessed with him. It's been like our entire lives, and it's only because he has those awful dimples and that innocent puppy dog look that people want to protect him. Meanwhile, I'm just a boring, ordinary brother. Even during his welcome dinner with my friends, everyone gushed about how charming and witty he was, while I sat there like an idiot. The first thing that struck me was when we went to a restaurant since my parents were visiting and Jenny was invited. She mentioned how excellent her food was. Lucas asked if he might taste some, and she agreed. But instead of scooping some off her plate like a normal person, he gently tugged on her sleeve, placed her spoon into his mouth, and thanked her. She just giggled. Is it odd that I find that intimate? My girlfriend feeds my brother with her spoon? My parents simply thought it was cute. That's when I started noticing small details. Another time, we were at a bar. They let Lucas in since my friend works there, despite the fact that he is under the age of 21. Jenny requested him to take a photo of us, but after taking one, he took another of just him and Jenny without asking me. He had one arm around her waist. She shared a snapshot of them together on Instagram with the words, "Science Buddies," and a heart emoji. She did not make a post to one of us. After that, I started to notice more things, If she improves her appearance, Lucas will notice and compliment her. He quipped that if biology doesn't work out for her, she might always pursue a modeling career. I'd heard him spew this stuff to many girls, so I told Jenny it didn't mean anything. When I mentioned that, she seemed oddly dissatisfied. He's also invited us to hang out with him in the past, and even if I can't join them, he'll ask her to accompany just the two of them. Who in the hell asks their brother's girlfriend to hang out alone? He texted her once to see if she wanted to get lunch because he was near her apartment. She agreed, despite our plans to watch a movie later. She was late for our plans since their lunch was too long, but she returned with a small gift he had purchased her. Nonetheless, she appeared really thrilled about it. Jenny has never stopped him. At first, she'd laughed dismissively, but it became evident that she was loving the attention. She started talking about him a lot, such humorous things he did in class, and asked him a few questions about his childhood. When the winter quarter began, they had some classes together, and for the first time, Jenny did not bother to invite me to any of hers. I used to sit in on at least one of her classes every week, even though I'm an economics major, simply to spend time with her, but she didn't bring it up this time. They would hang out together after class, without me. They had some inside jokes that I didn't understand. I once heard her call him Lab Rat as a nickname, and he called her Microscope, and they both laughed. When I questioned what it meant, Jenny simply replied, "Oh, it's just a stupid thing from class," and shifted the subject. When the three of us got together, she'd give him more and more attention, staring at him and smiling as if he was the nicest thing ever. I only hoped she would look at me as she used to. Jenny used to text me all the time before Lucas showed there, as if we were in regular conversation. Sometimes hours pass before she responds. But when I'm with her and Lucas texts, she responds immediately. I have checked her phone. I know it's bad, but I was getting anxious when I noticed they texted virtually every day. Nothing very romantic, but they communicate more than I expected. They email each other links to songs they believe the other will like. She doesn't do that with me anymore. One day, I overheard her and her friend in my apartment complaining. There are no men in our major with both brains and brawn. They're in STEM, so all the dudes in there are probably built like the Chicago bean. Jenny quietly replied, "That's not true. Just look at Lucas." I have to admit, I cried on my floor that night, literally sitting against the wall in my bedroom, crying. Jenny has told me I'm smart before, but never in the same appreciative tone she used with Lucas. And, as far as I know, she has never made such a comment about my body to any of her friends. The absolute worst thing occurred when our social group went to McDonald's. We were kidding about a flyer we saw on campus advertising for nude models who paid generously. Jenny suddenly stood in front of me and told Lucas he should sign up for it. Jenny and a few other friends had an uncomfortably drawn-out chat about my brother's body, and how he would make an excellent sculpture subject. They worded it poorly, although jokingly, and how much he needs it. He had been job searching. They were saying things like, "You'd be perfect with your swimmer's build, and the class would love to draw your shoulders." Jenny persisted, saying, "Seriously, you'd make so much money," sincerely attempting to persuade him. Lucas kept saying no and citing solid reasons why he didn't want to, but Jenny kept pressuring him to apply. She and the others persisted until Lucas stopped answering. I just sat there like an idiot, eating my fries, while my girlfriend discussed how my brother would be an excellent nude model. I'm not a confrontational person, but during the car trip home, I discreetly stated that the entire talk was strange, and it made me uncomfortable to hear how badly my own girlfriend and her friends wanted my brother to be naked. Jenny and I are not serious people, and I said this in a light-hearted manner, but she seemed to take it seriously. She said that my claim was the stupidest thing she had ever heard. She explained that she was simply trying to be a good elder sister to Lucas, by assisting him in finding work. I told her that while I want him to get hired, I wouldn't push him to do OnlyFans or anything. She accused me of sexualizing an innocent job, which I can understand. But I informed her that Lucas was uncomfortable, and likely felt sexualized because they were making comments about specific portions of his body. She became defensive, stating she didn't mean it that way. We went back and forth about it for a while, neither raising our voices but both upset, and I ended up dropping her off at her house rather than taking her back to my apartment. After that, things were weird for a few days. She didn't text me as much. When she texted, she appeared aloof, sending shorter sentences than normal. I saw her on campus with Lucas once, sitting on a bench conversing, but I didn't approach them. I watched from a distance for a minute before leaving. I'll also admit that since Lucas moved here, I've tried to be an especially wonderful boyfriend for Jenny. If Lucas admired her hair, I'd purchase her an expensive hair product to compliment her even more. I've always indulged her, but I stepped it up a notch when I felt competitive. Last month I spent about $200 on concert tickets after Lucas mentioned enjoying the same band she liked. I know that was a far more retrograde approach to dealing with my fears than simply talking to Lucas, or Jenny, but I didn't want to accept that I'm jealous of Lucas, like I had to do when we were youngsters. I just want one part of my life that is mine, that offers me undivided love and care, and I believe Jenny was the one for me. Now, anytime she mentions Lucas or I think about them in class, I get physically uncomfortable. It is driving me mad. That is to say, the day following the semi-argument, I felt insecure, and texted Jenny an apology. Then I recommended that we go to a nearby lake town, which she had wanted to do for a year. She already had a plan for what she intended to do there. She was overjoyed because I had always been too busy with academics and my part-time work. She chose a weekend, and we spent the previous week planning, deciding on activities and packing, while she booked us a hotel room. She had all of these ideas. She appeared to be enjoying herself as she planned everything. For a brief period, everything felt normal, as it had been before Lucas arrived. When she mentioned buying the ice cream, she got an ecstatic look in her eyes, and when I joked about getting a king bed at the hotel, she blushed like she had when we first started dating. That was nice. But before we left on Friday, she asked me a question that devastated me. She asked if we could bring Lucas. No other friends. She did not ask whether we could make it a group activity. She begged for just Lucas to come. I asked her why we would bring my younger brother when it was meant to be romantic, just the two of us. She stated that the three of us are often hanging together, and she told Lucas about the lake and encouraged him to go before, so it would be impolite not to include him. I just stood there, shocked. She wanted to invite Lucas on our romantic holiday, which she had been planning for a year. I asked her if she was joking, and she said no. She thought it would be enjoyable with him there as well. She mentioned that he had been feeling lonely recently, and could use the trip. When I questioned where he'd sleep, she answered, "I mean, obviously we'd need to get a room with 2 beds then." As if I was being stupid. So she was not only inviting him, but she was really suggesting that we adjust our sleeping arrangements from sharing a bed to not sharing a bed in order to accommodate him. After holding everything in for so long, I finally vented my frustration at her. I told her how upset the two of them made me, and how I felt like a third wheel whenever there were 3 of us. I mentioned the flirtation, the chat I overheard, and even briefly mentioned how my parents did the same thing to me. Admittedly, they have nothing to do with her, but I told her I was sick of being someone's second favorite. I told her she seemed more interested in spending time with Lucas than with me. I mentioned how she was late for our plans because she had lunch with him, how she lights up when he texts her, and how she always laughs louder at his jokes than my own. I questioned her directly if she had feelings for him. I don't believe I've ever been that blunt or combative with someone in my life. She responded by stating I was exaggerating, as if I was pretending she cheated when she didn't. I've never accused her of cheating. She claimed that all of their encounters had been platonic, and she went on to give her side of the story, making me feel bad for becoming so upset. She claimed I was being paranoid, and that nothing was going on between them. She said they were just friends, and she was trying to be nice to him since he was my brother, and she understands the value of family. But I apologized and informed her I wouldn't be going to the lake with her anymore, which irritated her. She mentioned the hotel and a few other places she had reserved times with, would charge her a cancellation fee, but I didn't mind. She burst into tears and told me I was overreacting. I simply couldn't do it anymore. The notion of watching her smile at Lucas for the entire weekend while I pretended everything was fine, was too much. I left her apartment and drove home without saying anything more. This occurred about a week ago, and I have not seen them since. Lucas texted me, asking for a one-on-one conversation. I guess Jenny informed him of our fight, but I blocked him. My parents called to ask why I wasn't talking to Lucas, and I made up an excuse about being too busy with studies. They appeared suspicious, but didn't pursue it. Jenny texted me the next day, asking if we could talk, and I didn't respond. She sent several more messages over the next few days, but I couldn't bring myself to respond. I saw her across campus once and hid in a building to avoid her. I realize that's silly, but I couldn't face her yet. Do I truly believe Lucas is interested in Jenny? He's undoubtedly been sheltered as hell by my parents and doesn't know any better. But, do I believe Jenny likes him? Yes. But I still adore her so much. I can't quit thinking about her. We'd been dating for 3 years, and everything was going great until Lucas showed up. But what if I am wrong? What if she merely considers him a good friend? In their defense, I've never instructed Lucas to stop flirting or stated to Jenny that her friendship with him bothers me. I also put them in the same classes and introduced them. Perhaps this is entirely my fault for being so insecure. So why did she have to invite him on our romantic getaway? I honestly don't know what to do. Update. A lot of you were severe on my attitude toward Lucas, which I suppose I deserved. However, some of you do not comprehend what it is like to grow up with someone who is always the focus of attention. And to those who claim I'm making this whole thing up, I fucking wish I was. Anyway, here's an update on what happened with my 22-year-old girlfriend, 21 female, and adoptive brother, 18 male. I attempted to keep track of events as they occurred, but I apologize if this message is still lengthy and confusing. Since my last post, a lot has happened, but the most of it has been conversations rather than spectacular happenings. Clarifying things from comments. I blocked my brother because I was mad at him for causing all of this. I didn't explain why, simply blocked his number. Juniors can take coursework with freshmen at my institution. There are pathways to graduation, but you can complete them at your own leisure. Jenny is enrolled in a 5-year program, therefore she is now studying lower-level classes that she did not have time for previously. My girlfriend never told my brother to do OnlyFans. I just brought it up as a parallel to the model issue. Some folks in the comments assumed she actually proposed that, which is incorrect. Why did I not think Lucas liked Jenny? I despised the way he treated her, but it was nothing compared to what he does with his high school friends. He's just a really physical person, which I believe stems from his past. My parents once told me that when they first acquired him, he refused to let anyone touch him. And now he's gone in the opposite direction. Sorry for offending you in STEM. I was simply making a joke. I am sure some of you are built like Greek gods. On to the update. After going through many of your comments, I understood that I wanted to at least hear Lucas out before leaping to conclusions. So I unblocked him and texted him to see if he still wanted to talk. He agreed straight away, and we met at an off-campus coffee shop where we wouldn't run across anyone we knew. Lucas texted me because Jenny asked him about my background, and something she said made him assume I was upset with him. She had noticed that I had been upset lately and wondered whether it had anything to do with how our parents treated us growing up. Lucas said he assumed I'd been avoiding him, which I had, but didn't understand why. I asked him straight up if he liked Jenny, and he answered no. He claimed he agreed to go to the lake because he assumed I was the one who wanted him to come. Jenny had apparently informed him that we were arranging this vacation, and inquired as to if he was available that weekend. He assumed she meant that we both wanted him there. I wanted to read their texts, which I understand is a violation of privacy, but I was desperate. He hesitated before agreeing, which surprised me. We sat for almost 20 minutes as I scrolled through their communication history. The texts were not particularly explicit, but they still felt close. Jenny gave him compliments, affirmations, and nicknames, and she spoke to him in a caring manner that made me feel special to her. She was constantly asking Lucas for help with academics, fascinated on his intelligence. He's quite intelligent, I'll admit. She informed him about her future goals and sought his counsel on one of her most difficult difficulties, family matters she had only previously addressed with me. There was nothing that suggested adultery, yet I still felt deceived. She emailed him memes virtually every day. She was constantly asking him about his day. She even texted him a selfie once, wondering if her new haircut was good. He said it did. They discussed their classes, professors, and assignments, as well as more personal topics, such as their childhoods and future anxieties. I noticed a message from her that stated, "You understand me in a way most people don't," and it made my stomach turn. I assumed I was the one who understood her best. Lucas's texts were largely jokes, and the affectionate ones were just messages he sent to our mother, such as, "Miss you," or, "You're the best," with heart emojis. I trusted him at this point, so I attempted to describe how they made me feel. He apologized excessively and promised to cease talking to Jenny. He told me he had his own crush and suggested I invite her out on a weekend trip to get back at him. Lucas explained that he was just wanting to get friends with my buddies so that I would hang out with him beyond just giving him rides. He stated he didn't have many friends here because he was new to the school, and since I already had a friend group, he was attempting to join in with them. He wondered if I blocked him because I didn't like him, and it was difficult to explain that while I don't like him, that doesn't mean I don't love him. I tried to justify my hatred by pointing out our parents' partiality, and Lucas said something like, "You're correct. They seem to like me more. Perhaps you're adopted." He's never taken it seriously. We both laughed it off. I asked Lucas to characterize Jenny's interactions with him, and from what I could tell, Jenny and her companion frequently commented on his appearance, knew he went to the gym on a regular basis, and paid him a few visits while he was working out. Jenny routinely gave him rides and urged that he drink at her apartment, which he had never done before. He didn't tell me sooner because he has no idea whether behaviors are acceptable or not. No shit. And assumed Jenny simply wanted to be his friend. He mentioned that they were studying together in the library, and she rested her head on his shoulder when she got sleepy. When they met at the mall again, she assisted him in selecting clothing. He claimed she was always caressing his arm while they talked, and she once fixed his collar before a presentation. Little things that don't necessarily cross a line, but when combined, present an unfavorable picture. I gave him a crash lesson on relationship boundaries and why neither of their actions was acceptable, and I encouraged him to stop flirting with everyone. Lucas stated that he simply tries to treat women as he does males, but promised to attempt to change his conduct. He appeared really apologetic and promised to be more cautious in the future, particularly with my friends and girlfriends. After conversing with Lucas, I decided I needed to hear Jenny's side as well. We texted back and forth for a while before deciding to meet. I had a couple conversations with Jenny that I will condense into one. When we finally met in person in a park near her apartment, she appeared to have not slept well, which made me feel bad and validated at the same time. She claimed that when we had our dispute over the lake, my fury came out of nowhere, and she was afraid because I appeared to be accusing her of cheating. She admitted she had no idea I was feeling this way and wished I had mentioned it sooner. She apologized for being close to Lucas, but reminded me that I'd never discussed my history with him. She stated she believed I would be pleased with how well they got along. I apologized for not communicating. When I mentioned the texts, Jenny opened their DMs so I could point out the one that concerned me, but I couldn't explain why. When I asked why she invited Lucas on the vacation, she explained that she stated we had plans to go, and Lucas appeared eager. She stated she was simply being kind by including him. However, she showed me texts in which Lucas requested if he could come over, not the other way around as he claimed. She denied ever visiting him at the gym or commenting on his appearance other than the usual compliments you'd give a buddy. She agreed they had become close, but said it was only platonic, and that she considered him as a younger brother figure. She stated that she had been making an effort with him because she understood how important family was to me, even if I had moaned about him on occasion. Jenny threatened to cut him off if this disturbed me, but I told her we needed a break because whether Lucas's interest was genuine or not, I believed it. She burst into tears when I said break, and inquired as to whether I meant to split up. I stated I didn't know yet, but I wanted some time to consider. She was quite emotional, but she soon realized that it was my problem, not something she did. She congratulated me for being honest with her and encouraged my desire to work on my fears. There was a lot of back and forth between the two of them that I haven't included, and I was fatigued by this time. Their stories didn't match, and I wasn't sure who to believe. Part of me wanted to trust Jenny because I adore her, but another part of me felt as if I had witnessed the indications firsthand. But when I asked Lucas about the discrepancies in their claims, he appeared apprehensive. He stood by his words and indicated Jenny may have skipped class to meet him at the gym. He did in fact go over to her apartment to drink, and when he explained what happened, his words were jumbled, and his story changed. First he said it was only him, Jenny, and a few others. Then he claimed there were maybe 10 individuals there. Then he indicated it was probably closer to 5 or 6. He was unable to keep the details straight. Lucas is a lousy liar, so I suspected this was a cover-up and insisted he tell me if he slept with Jenny. He became quite upset and denied it, although his face was glowing red. He said his memory was foggy because the others had given him too much beer, and he went on to say how he was so drunk that he puked up in the restroom. He said he only recalled bits of the night, that they played a drinking game, and that someone, he assumed Jenny, helped him to the restroom when he became ill. He claimed Jenny told him he could crash on her couch, but he insisted on going home, so someone drove him. I didn't quite believe him. I know what he says, and he seemed to be lying. I asked Jenny about it, and she said she didn't see him get sick, which makes sense because she's very responsible with alcohol, and I doubt she'd let someone she cares about overdo it. She said he drank maybe 3 drinks total and appeared fine when he left. Definitely not blackout drunk as he claimed. I'm not sure why they'd tell me about this in the first place, but I'm beginning to suspect that they slept together inebriated, and are now unable to recount their story straight. Lucas significantly reduced his affectionate flirty conduct with several of his friends the other day, which appears to be an attempt to demonstrate to me that he can listen to my advice. I observed him talking to one of his pals, and he kept a decent gap between them, not touching them once. But I have a feeling he wouldn't listen to me as much if he wasn't feeling bad, which almost makes me believe he had sex with Jenny. I said some terrible things to him when we were alone, but I regret it now since I was probably overthinking. It would be extremely out of character for both of them to have an affair, as Jenny was always loyal before this nonsense and Lucas has never cared about dating. I kind of want Lucas to send Jenny a mock wanna go out text to check if she's lying about her affections for him. But if she says yes, I will feel like an ass. And even if she says no, I'm not sure if she's being honest or just saying that because she knows he won't be interested. I'm weary of feeling suspicious, and Jenny's absence has been odd for me. Now I simply feel divorced from reality. I have not been sleeping well. I keep checking my phone for a text from her, only to discover we're on break and feel terrible all over again. I considered contacting the others from the drinking night to hear their stories, but I also want to focus on other things right now. I suppose I'll heed the comment's suggestion and seek counseling. It's been a terrible few weeks since everything happened. My parents called yesterday and asked why Lucas was so down, and I had to lie and claim I had no idea. I'm not sure who to believe anymore, or whether I'm just making it all up in my head because of my troubles with Lucas. I think that's it for now. I might blog again if something big happens, but for the time being, I'm just trying to get through the day. Thank you for reading this far if you did. Karen demands VIP table claiming to know the owner, yet I'm the owner, and she was left crying with a $4,000 bill as after my revenge. Karen bursts into the restaurant, screaming that she knows the owner and demands that we give her and her group of friends the VIP table reserved for celebrities. The problem is that I own the restaurant and don't know who this lady is. However, I decided to play along and see what occurred. During dinner, one of the girls asked me if I thought my life was useless because I worked as a waiter. That was then I realized that all bets were out, and I was determined to extract my revenge. Here's what I did. This happened near Christmas and New Year's. My grandparents immigrated to Canada from Italy in the 1970s and opened a restaurant. When they died, my parents took over the restaurant, which they expanded and improved throughout the decades. I've been working in the restaurant since I was 15. As my parents became older, they retired and became snowbirds, spending their winters in Florida. They sold the restaurant to me a few years ago, but they kept a small portion of the stock as a side income in addition to their savings. As soon as I got control, I modernized the old house. I restored the eatery, changed the logo, and contacted local and national publications about placing advertisements. I invited food critics, bloggers, and vloggers. It was slow at first, and I worried that the loan I took out to do all of this was the worst mistake I'd ever made, that I'd damaged 3 generations of a family business. But it soon started to work. A local semi-famous YouTuber featured us in one of his videos, encouraging more people to visit and review us. Even on a Monday, we rapidly saw 5 to 10 times the usual volume of activity. We became a popular place for huge parties, and celebrities frequently stopped by on particular occasions. I even invited a few high-profile clients to come and cook for our guests. This cost a fortune, but we were fully stocked for the holidays. People had to make reservations in July to get a table in December. It took years to reach this stage. When things become busy, I don't just sit in the back office, I'm on the floor doing whatever needs to be done, whether it's greeting customers, bussing tables, or mopping floors. On nights with high-profile guests or events, I don a jacket and take command. One night, 6 women walked in. 5 of them appeared to be in their early 20s, with the leader possibly in her mid-20s. My best guess was that she was the elder sister of one of the females or an older sorority sister to new college students. I was greeting them at the door, and as they approached, Queen Bee Karen was telling the baby Karens how great this restaurant is, how good the food is, and how there might even be celebrities there. When she approached me, she said she needed a table for 6. It was my reply. Of course, can I get the name on the reservation? She stared at me. She replied, "Oh, I didn't make one, but that's fine. The owner is a personal friend of mine. He said he always leaves 1 or 2 tables open for special guests, and we can have one tonight." This is true for many well-known eateries, and I've recently done it as well. But I had no idea who this woman was, and she had never mentioned any of this to me. I realized she was attempting to get in without a reservation, but she had chosen the worst person to do so with. I informed her, "I'm sorry, but we can't seat anyone without a reservation. As you can see, we have no seats available." I didn't want to go full out and say, "I'm the owner, and we have never spoken before, so I never promised you anything," but I also didn't want to disgrace her in front of the other girls she was with at the moment. She then told one of the other girls to snap a photo of me. She stated that she would communicate with the owner to ensure that I was either cleaning toilets or fired before the end of the week. The other girls behind her agreed, shouting things like, "Yeah, kiss your minimum wage job goodbye." I wasn't sure if they were in on it with her or if they really thought she knew the owner. Queen Bee Karen then stated, "Look, you can either give us a table or I will make your life extremely difficult. This is not worth losing your job." She kept pointing, attempting to demean me, and then saying things like, "Obviously, you aren't anyone here, because if you were, you would know who I am and never try to tell me anything other than yes or of course." She was constantly attempting to push me down and steal the table. At this point, it had been a difficult day for me, and I had 3 options. Number 1, I could inform her that I am the owner and confront her with all of this. Number 2, I could simply hand her the table and let it go. Or, finally, I could show Queen Bee Karen and her minions a lesson. I chose option 3. I smiled at her and replied, "Of course, ma'am, please follow me." I handed her one of the 3 tables we keep open in case a celebrity wanders in, which happens occasionally. I responded, "I apologize for everything, and you are right, it would be simpler just to give you the table." I also informed her that the first 3 rounds of drinks would be complimentary. I sat them down and personally served them. While they were sitting there, I said, "We need one of your credit cards and IDs just to keep on file, and we'll return them to you before you leave." Queen Karen gave me her card and told the baby Karen minions, "Tonight is on me." I took their orders, gave them their complimentary beverages, and warned them that due to our busy schedule tonight, the food may be delayed. The females were solely concerned about the free drinks. They ordered 3 rounds and still hadn't received their food. They ultimately called and requested me to look into it, all while giving me the worst attitude since they arrived. I assured them I'd look into it, but also asked if they needed more drinks. They ordered 2 more rounds. They were sloshed by the time the appetizers arrived, having spent most of the night drinking on an empty stomach and nibbling salads. As the dinner arrived, additional drinks were ordered. What these females didn't realize was that they were sitting at our VIP table, which generally costs a few $1,000s, but I didn't charge them. Except for the first 3 rounds, I charged them for the highly expensive cocktails they consumed throughout the evening. Furthermore, the table they were sitting at was VIP, as previously indicated, hence the menus differed. Prices are not listed on these menus. This is a restaurant industry trade secret. They also served higher-end menu items including white truffle, black caviar dinners, and specially imported West Coast oysters, among others. At one point during the night, I honestly started to wonder what I was doing. I was scared I was going too far with these poor girls. They might not know any better. But there were moments during the night that cheered me, such as when one of the baby Karens asked whether I thought my life was useless because all I ever did was serve. Also, one of the other employees told me that they were plotting ways to mess with me, believing that they could do so whenever they wanted and that I would always give them a table. I heard them say, "He's cute, but I wouldn't date a waiter like that. He's such a pushover." There were more comments like that throughout the night, so I continued their life lesson. By the end of the night, each female had racked up a bill of $500 to $600. I delivered Queen Karen a bill for $4,232.23, which included tax and tip. I've never seen someone sober up this quickly. She went from laughing and giggling with her friends to nearly crying. She quickly summoned me over and inquired whether this was a joke. I accepted the bill, looked it over, and apologized. "I will get you the correct bill amount." Again, she appeared absolutely relieved, as if she had received someone else's bill, and called me a effing idiot, before continuing to chat to her friends. When I returned to give her the correct bill, she flipped out again. It was simply a question. Is there something wrong with this bill that you did not order? She and the girls were startled and went over every line of the bill, even the first few lines, which described their original 3 rounds as complimentary. They then took out their phones and went over everything 100 times, totaling everything up. Queen Bee, apparently shocked, just replied, "1 second, I need to use the restroom." Part of me thought she'd dine and dash and leave baby Karens with the bill, but I quietly reminded her that we had her ID and credit card, without being too obvious. I was concerned that she would run out of money. 10 minutes later, she comes with new makeup, plainly crying, and tells me about how bad the food was, how terrible the drinks were, and so on, demanding that I at the very least cut the price in half. She went on to add that the baby Karens would help, despite the fact that she had already told them that the night was hers. Then, as if a bright bulb went off in her head, she brought up her purported relationship with the owner once more, as if it would give me extra impetus to cut the price in half. I grinned as I told her, "No, simply no, I cannot change the bill." She pulls out her phone and shows me a string of text messages from someone named after my restaurant, followed by the term owner. I immediately understood what she had been doing in the bathroom, most likely changing one of the other Karen minions' contact names and deleting previous texts to build this new script. I went through the messages and clicked on the contact information before telling her, "That's not the owner's cell phone number." Her reaction was, "He has multiple phones for business, of course. You don't know all of his phone numbers." I said, "How about this? If we call him and he says it's okay to take 50% off the bill, then I'll do it." Her response was to start raving and screaming, which grabbed the attention of the few remaining customers, and I realized it was time to finish this. I told her in a less sympathetic tone, "Cut the crap, little girl. You don't know the owner. You have never been here before, and if you keep shouting, I will call the cops." Her tone shifted as she tried to justify herself as best she could. My response to her pathetic retort was, "My grandpa founded this restaurant. My family has been conducting this business for centuries. I've been working here for almost my entire life. I am the sole proprietor of this restaurant, and I have never seen you, heard of you, or promised anything to a stranger I've never met before tonight." The little Karens were frozen and unsure how to respond. Queen Bee was in tears. I said, "Now I've given you the table you requested? One of these specially reserved tables for high-end clients that I didn't charge you for, as well as 3 rounds of complimentary cocktails. If you don't pay your bill, I'll phone the cops and give them your ID." Karen signed the bill in tears, and the tiny Karens grabbed into their wallets and handed her the cash they had, which was probably a couple $100, with the promise to reimburse her more. 2 days later, an agitated man enters my restaurant and insists that one of my bartenders speak with me. I was in the back office working, so he had to wait about a half hour. She was with him, but she kept her head down. I took them both to my office and showed him clips from the security cameras, which had especially good audio because they were in the VIP section. We needed to keep accurate records in that area due to previous unrelated mishaps. I showed him most of it, their remarks, orders, and everything. After everything was said and done, he hurried out with her, shouting at her the whole time. I haven't seen or heard from any of them since, but the original bill I handed them, which did not contain the $120 oysters, is framed on my desk. As a side note, I did not lose as much money at the table and during 3 rounds of drinks as you might assume. I didn't lose anything since I didn't expect to gain anything at all. The expense of the lunch and accompanying drinks more than made up for the first 3 rounds losses. So, now that you've learned everything, am I the jerk? Aside from the money, trying to bully their way into grabbing a seat, and avoiding paying the bill, the Karen's perspective on the world was probably the most astounding aspect of the incident. That one statement about the OP's original posters, ineptitude as a waiter really jumped out. It appeared that OP was about to abandon his entire vengeance scheme, but one of the baby Karens questioned him if he felt his life was pointless because all he had become was a waitress. That has to be one of the most ridiculously entitled perspectives we've ever seen on this channel. It may not be as thrilling or insane as some of the other stories, but the fact that she perceives the world in this manner is plain sick. There is nothing wrong with having a job, regardless of your income. This happens frequently with jobs like janitors, and I loathe it when people think they are superior just because they do not work in those roles. There's nothing wrong with becoming a janitor. I don't understand the thinking, but in this case, she not only feels that way, but she also wants to humiliate him for having a difficult job, such as being a waiter, or so she thinks he is doing. Another thing. I'm glad this tale ended on a relatively positive note, with the father seeking to reverse the situation but becoming more upset with his daughter than the restaurant owner. The only thing that frightened me was that the restaurant was recording audio from the people sitting at that table. I'd probably avoid going to a restaurant if I knew my conversations were being recorded. Anyway, I'm pleased everything worked out for the OP, but please tell me how you would have handled the situation if it had been your business and these were your customers. Was the OP a jerk, and why?